My father-in-law walked in on me as I was getting changed, and my mother-in-law says that it's my fault. This is a post sent to me by sister. I'm going to read out to you guys. Hi there, sis. I really enjoy your TikTok story times and would really like to stay anonymous as this story is really embarrassing for me. So, I live in Bournemouth with my in-laws. I know the hot topic and debate on your TikTok page for now has been whether it's okay for sisters to be living with their in-laws, especially Desi Muslim families, as there are a lot of problems within the families. And I'd like to say, I think my experience would confirm that it's probably a very bad idea to live with your in-laws. I'm 22 years old and I just recently got married. It's been 6 months. I'm only living with my in-laws temporarily. My husband thought it would be a good idea for us to live with them for at least a year so that I can get to know my in-laws really well. And it's not like we can't afford to move out either. Alhamdulillah, my husband has a house of his own which he purchased even before we got married. However, he insisted that we live with his family for at least a year so that I can bond with them and that they can bond with me. Everything was going really well until last week. So my husband and I were home alone at this time. This is one of those rare instances when we had the whole house to ourselves. You see, my in-laws were staying over at my sister-in-law's house because she had given birth about 8 weeks ago. My sister-in-law just went back to her in-laws' house, so my in-laws went with her so that they can help her out with the new baby. Of course, being home alone, I didn't make it a point to lock my bedroom door when I get into shower. In our bedroom, we have an ensuite attached bathroom, so I always shower inside the bathroom in our bedroom. But I always make it a point to lock my bedroom before I shower when my in-laws are at home. However, on this day, because I assumed that my in-laws weren't going to be coming back for the next week or so, I thought I was safe to not have to lock the bedroom door. After all, my husband was in the living room watching TV, so even if he walks in, it's not a big deal. So I'm pretty sure you can guess what happened from here. I went into the shower, I showered, and I came out. The thing is, I forgot to take my towel in. I was such an idiot. At first, I tried calling for my husband from the bathroom door, but then there was no response. I even yelled out, "Bring me my towel, please. I forgot it. I'm in the toilet and I'm dripping wet." And there was no response from my husband. I think he couldn't hear me. So I had no choice but to step out of the bathroom and into my bedroom without wearing anything. And on this day, I washed my hair as well, so I was absolutely dripping wet. Just as I go in about to reach my towel, which I forgot on my bed, my father-in-law walks in. Bear in mind, the bedroom door wasn't even wide open. It was actually halfway shut. He just opens the door and barges in. I let out the most insane scream I've ever heard in my whole life. I never once imagined that I was able to make a sound like that. I screamed so loud that both the neighbors from both sides of our home came running to our door. I screamed and ran back into the toilet and slammed the door shut and locked it. Of course, at this sound, my husband heard too and came running upstairs. I was crying and weeping in the toilet, shouting, "Why are you here? I thought you were at my sister-in-law's house." Of course, by this time, my husband was already up, and he was yelling at me, saying what happened. Although I'm pretty sure he could figure out what happened, seeing as his father was there and the floor was wet from when I came out the shower. At this point, my father-in-law just felt so embarrassed that he just exited the house without saying anything to my husband or to me. And my husband started banging on the bathroom door, telling me to come out. I asked him to hand me my towel and wrap myself around the towel before I came out. And he was yelling at me saying, "Why didn't you lock the bedroom door? What the hell is wrong with you?" And we started fighting there and then. And then downstairs, we can hear my father-in-law talking to the neighbors, saying that there's nothing wrong, that I just saw a rat. I guess, of course, he felt too embarrassed to admit that he accidentally walked in on his daughter-in-law, and instead, he just said that I spotted a rat and that's why I screamed so loud. My husband and I just yelled at each other for a while. He said that I should have locked the bedroom door, despite thinking that we were home alone, and I said I didn't have to because I assumed that only he was home. But anyway, even though we were extremely embarrassed and ashamed, we kind of moved on. And I guess my father-in-law went back to his daughter's house because I didn't see him until 3 days later when he came back with my mother-in-law. He was extremely embarrassed again and he didn't even make eye contact with me. He didn't even look at me. And my mother-in-law, on the other hand, as soon as she came in, she started yelling at me about how I didn't lock the door on purpose. She was saying stuff like, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to use your young feminine body to lure other guys?" She even said insane things like, "Isn't my son enough for you?" Of course, I was extremely angry and started shouting back at her. At this time, my husband was at work, so he wasn't here to witness any of this either. I was so furious at her that I started yelling at her, saying, before I came out of the toilet, I yelled at my husband, saying that I need the towel, that I'm in here naked, and it was your husband that walked in despite hearing that. And to this, she completely lost it. But it is true though. I already told you. Before I came out of the toilet, I yelled for my husband to bring a towel in because I forgot it. And if my father-in-law was upstairs or anywhere around the house at the time, I'm pretty sure he would have heard me shouting, asking for a towel. And the fact that he still barged in anyway, well, maybe that proves that he was the one who wanted to walk in on me. But anyway, when I pointed this out to my mother-in-law, she was furious. She yelled at me saying that I was no longer welcome in her house. She started throwing fits and a tantrum. And I told her the only reason why I had to point this out was because she was accusing me of trying to lure other men. I ended up having to call my husband to come finish work and come home early so that we could move to our actual home. I knew that we should have moved in together with my husband in his house from the day we got married, but I guess I was an idiot for trying to bond with my in-laws. Long story short, I haven't spoken to my mother-in-law, father-in-law since. And I don't plan on talking to them anytime soon unless they apologize. And no, my husband doesn't have a say in this because it's kind of his fault. Now, I don't know whether my father-in-law did have intentions to walk in on me or not. I can never prove to say whether he did hear me ask me for a towel or not. All I know is that I'll never live with my in-laws ever again, and I advise other sisters to do the same. Whoa. Sister, for your sake, I really, really do hope that your father-in-law actually didn't hear you yelling for the towel and that he just happened to walk in, just like out of nowhere. And I really hope that he didn't like purposely walk in, knowing that you asked for a towel because you're in the shower. That sounds terrifying. I'd be embarrassed as hell. I would literally wish the ground would open up and swallow me whole if that happened to me. I'm glad you moved out, and I'm definitely not going to reveal your identity. Don't worry, of course not. But yeah, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It must have been like horrifying. And I really, really hope that it was just accidental overall. And I'm sorry that your mother-in-law is accusing you of doing it on purpose. Like, what the hell? I'm glad you moved out. But I'm guessing everyone was like shocked, I assume. But yeah, I can't even imagine that happening to me. I don't even know what I would do. I would just like melt away to the ground.